Hey everyone, nice to see a few of you here. If there is background noise, it's because I have my AC on because it's very hot today. So apologies, I hope it's not too much of a distraction. So I figured we'll start things off. So hopefully you can see the screen. For some reason, I just noticed this. Like I'd already started streaming, but I usually have an icon next to my Twitch URL at the bottom of the screen, and apparently that's vanished now. So I'll have to fix that. But at least you can see the screen, which is okay. So we're going to be doing a walkthrough of the InfoSec Prep OSCP box on VulnHub. For those of you who don't know, this was a box that Falcon Spy, he's an admin of the InfoSec Prep Discord server, he developed it, and it was effectively used for a competition that we ran on the server where if you submitted the root flag, you got entered into a competition where you could win basically the PWK materials and I think 30 days of lab time. So it was pretty big deal. But we didn't want to cut off a load of people in terms of the difficulty of the box. We didn't want to make it too difficult, so it's a very easy box. You'll see when I start doing it, you know, the initial way in is pretty simple. The intended PrivEsc is extremely simple. However, in true try-harder fashion, a load of the entrants started finding all these wonderful unintentional PrivEscs. So we'll go over a few of those. I think I have 4 total. One I think is kind of a cheat, but it's a good one to just know that you can do this, and you'll see why. So I have downloaded the box, and I have it started up in VirtualBox. I apologize if you can't see the text here. I'm not going to be using this window at all, really, until the end. But effectively, when the box starts up, you get this display which says it's Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. The IP address is 192.168.1.136, and it says OSCP login. Okay, so what we'll first do, obviously, is we're going to just launch an Nmap scan of this. I did think about using auto recon, but I think this one is so simple. I just want to show you how you can just do it with Nmap, really. So what I'm going to do, I have made this big, but let's do it more. Okay, so we're going to do sudo nmap. I'm going to tell it not to ping the host, and we'll do basically everything. So we want to do version detection, we want to do default scripts, so that's how you do that. And I'll just put -vv, so it's very verbose, and the IP address 192.168.1.136. And I'll type my password. So I ran it as sudo, so it does syn scans. So let's. Hey, Plavity's here. Awesome. Hey, Plavity, how are you? Okay, so it scanned 1,000 ports. That's the default. It found port 80. It found port 22. It's going to go off and do some service scans. So we'll look at port 80 because port 22, you know, it's probably. Well, it already did everything, but we'll have a look at port 80 anyway because, yeah, that makes sense to start there. That's a pretty common port, so I'm gonna browse to this, and we get a WordPress site, and it basically just gives you know, an overview of the box. So it explains exactly what you should do, right? So, you know, you submitted the flag by messaging the tryharder bot, and it says a few things. Almost forgot the only user on the box is OSCP. We kind of knew that already because it said it here in the VirtualBox thing, but this is good information to know. But other than that, there's nothing much there. It just tells us where the flag is. So there's one flag and it's in /root. So let's go back to our Nmap scan and see what we found. So it found that obviously SSH is OpenSSH 8.2. So if we needed to, we could sort of Google, see if there's any vulnerability there. But what looks more interesting is this. So we've got, obviously, an Apache web server. It found that it was running WordPress, but it also found a robots.txt. Okay, and one disallowed entry. So let's check that out. So we can just go to here and do robots.txt. And you see it's disallowing /secret. So this also said it here. I figured I'd show you how to do it manually anyway. So robots.txt effectively tells web crawlers, like Google's crawler, to not follow or record this, right? So that's effectively how it works. It's kind of like a blacklist where you disallow or allow certain URLs, certain file paths. So in this case, it's saying, okay, we don't want you to go to secret. In the past, robots.txts we used to sort of make sure that Google didn't cache admin areas, which back in the day was fine, but then of course, people start attacking them and saying, okay, well, if you're telling Google not to, the location of an admin area, then an attacker knows exactly where it is as well. So they're pretty bad. You should really just, if you have an admin area that you don't want Google to cache, then you really shouldn't let anyone access it over the internet. So we'll go to /secret, and we get a massive amount of data here. And you might think this looks kind of random. If you have been in the industry for, really even a small amount of time, you'll instantly look at the end and notice these two equal signs. And to be honest, generally, even if these weren't here, because equal signs, I'll tell you, this is basically base 64 encoded. Equal signs are used for padding. If you look into base 64, the reason is you can't basically evenly divide the bytes, so you have to add padding sometimes. But not necessarily. There could be two equal signs, there could be one, there could be zero. More generally, to be honest, even if you don't notice the equal signs, this to me, after being in the industry for so long, just screams base 64. And it's just, you kind of just memorize what characters base 64 can have in them, and you just look at it and say, okay, yeah, that's probably base 64. But we can verify this. So what we're going to do, we'll scroll down here, let's create a file called b64, and I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to save it. I'm going to say use the base64 command to decode it and give it the file. And what happens is we get this OpenSSH private key, which is good. So effectively, a private key can be used to connect to the SSH server without a password. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this command again, but we're going to redirect it into just a file called key. And we know from our Nmap scan the SSH is open on port 22, and we also know from both this login page and from the WordPress site, the OSCP is the only user on the box. So we know that this key is probably for the OSCP user. Again, this is a very simple box, so we're basically going to just take what's given to us and assume that that's the right answer. So what we'll do is we'll use SSH with -i, we'll give it the key, and then we'll say OSCP at 192.168.1.136. And we will check that, and lo and behold, we get a shell back. And if I type ID, we are running as the OSCP user. So that's how you get the low privilege shell. We could check and see, you know, can we look inside the root directory? No, we cannot. So we're going to have to do some kind of PrivEsc here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 2 PrivEsc scripts and just show you both of them. So we're going to run linpeas. So I'll go here, and my internet is apparently slow. So there's a number of ways you can get this onto the box, but luckily I gave this box networking, so I can just wget it. So I'm going to run that. It's going to take a little while for some reason. I don't think it resolves this very fast for some reason, but it will eventually. How many points this box on OSCP? I don't think this would ever be seen in the OSCP exam. I don't think it's even a 10-pointer. I think it's way too easy. It's one of the boxes that you might see in the labs as just like a fun box just to test out. So we have linpeas downloaded. So I am going to give it execute permissions. And then we'll just run it with -h just to see what happens. So there's a bunch of options here that we could run. I'm just going to run it with default options. So basically, it's just going to do some checks. It's not going to do all checks. It's not going to be super fast, but you know, we'll see what it gives back. What I am going to do though is I am going to run it and redirect the output, including errors. And I'm going to redirect everything into a program called T, which I can then set linpeas.txt. So basically what this is doing, T is a great program. It basically can write output that's given to a file while also displaying it. So whereas a regular redirect would just put all the output into a file, T will do that same thing, but it'll also let us see it live as well. And so I'm going to also pipe it into more. So you get, unfortunately, this mess, but if you just press the spacebar a few times, this is just the logo, then you get down to this stuff. So the way linpeas works, it runs a bunch of checks. It has a legend where it will say, basically, if it's red, yellow, it's probably very highly likely a PrivEsc vector. If it's red, you should definitely take another look at it. And all these are kind of just interesting things, right? So immediately, it's enumerated our user and all of our groups. So with the OSCP user, we're in OSCP group here. We're in the ADM group, the CD-ROM group. We're in the sudo group, which is marked as probably a PrivEsc vector. So we have the ability to run sudo, possibly. We're in plugdev group, and we're in LXD. So we can investigate those a bit later. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I wonder why that happened. Did it... Ooh, piece.txt. This worked the other day. I'm just gonna run it. Maybe I was too ambitious. No, okay. Linpeas has stopped working. Let me try running it directly. So I'm going to run it with bash. TXT and more. Let's see if that works. So, okay, I guess this is working. All right. So what else have we got? Nothing real here. Remember, we're looking out for like red and red, yellow. So this is just enumerating file system stuff. Environment variables, useful software. It's good to know we have some of this stuff on the host. Okay, we're getting into processes. So we have some root-owned processes that are running, but this is kind of normal. So if you do get stuck on a box, this might be a PrivEsc, but it might not. Let's scroll down. Some cron jobs, but nothing that stands out. again, what's this? Dbust, cbus, we might look into that. Keep going down. So it's again highlighted that our user has some interesting groups. So we'll look into that. Just going to scroll down again. It's highlighted LXD. It's going to keep going down. And interesting files. So these are SUID files, so they'll basically run as whoever owns the file. So these, to be honest, these are all probably root owned, and they're all they're marked as red because of interesting, but still you generally can't get PrivEsc out of these. However, this one, this is all red yellow. So this is, remember, 99% a PrivEsc vector. All right, this is unusual to have bash as an SUID file. So that's probably where we're going to go. It says it again here. Some capabilities, but generally this one's pretty default. Unexpected folders in root / CD-ROM, not really that unexpected, to be honest. This one's interesting as well. So it searched for root-owned files in home directories, and it found one called IP. So we'll look into that. But other than that, I think that's probably most of it. So we can quit that. What we'll also do, though, is we'll run Linux Smart Enumeration, which is a great script as well. And honestly, I think for this box, it kind of worked better in my experience. So what we'll do is we'll download this. I like how my my terminal is now orange. Let me reset. Okay. So we will run that, and LSE is slightly different. So it has levels that you can run. So level 0, it shows only highly important results. Level 1, it will show interesting, and level 2, it will show basically everything. This level 2 is kind of like running linenum. So what we'll do now is we will do our trick again. I'm going to run it just default, right? So we'll to lse.txt and then pipe it into more, and we'll see if that actually works. Which doesn't look like it is. And it's changed my terminal again. Okay. Oh, I know why. Because if you don't run it, it'll ask, if you don't run it by default, it'll basically ask for a password if it knows it, if you know it. So I didn't supply it with -i, so we'll do that. Now it should do it. Okay, there we go. So it runs all these checks. So this is I kind of like this about LSE over linpeas, is it, has this nice format where it will tell you the check it's running, and in this column you'll be able to see whether, anything interesting happened, right? So we can scroll down. Uncommon SetUID binary. So this one found it like almost immediately that bash is a SetUID binary, so you can run that as root. And then if we scroll down, is the user a member of any LXC or LXD group? Yes. So it's listed. Remember, this linpeas found this as well. It didn't kind of highlight it as well as this though. So we can Google that. And then this is going off and running some process information as well. But what we can do, we can look back at the bash binary. And if we go to GTFO bins and search bash, we want to search bash, and we want to see what happens if we have a SUID. So SUID is down here. It runs with the SUID bit set and may be exploited to access the file system, escalate or maintain access with elevated privileges, working as an SUID backdoor. You effectively, you don't need to do this. It's actually sudo. So I think it's actually creating a copy of the binary, which we already have, so we don't need to do that. One common thing that a lot of people make the mistake of is they assume that you can just run the binary and it will give you a root shell. And we can try that, and we'll see why that doesn't work. So it was this one. So if I paste it here, actually let me do an ls-l just to show you that it is root owned, and it is running as SUID. It is also SGID, so it should run with the privileges of the root user group as well. But if we run it, we get a shell back, but we're still running as OSCP user. There's no effective UID or anything like that. So it didn't really work. And this is definitely running a new one, because if we type exit, we get our other bash shell back. And the reason this happens, if you go... okay, that didn't work. If you do man bash, I think, and search for -p, there we go. It says if the shell is started with the effective user or group ID not equal to the real user or group ID, and the P option is not supplied, no startup files are read, shell functions not inherited environment, and the shell blah 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 are ignored. The effective user ID is set to the real user ID. Okay, so if you've done my PrivEsc course on Linux, you'll know what all that means. Just as a little refresher, as a user, you have a real ID. So in this case, we're 1,000. You also have an effective ID, which is generally set to your real ID. When you run SUID programs, effectively what happens is your effective ID is set to the owner of the SUID program, and the program uses that for all the operations it wants to do. With bash, however, if you set bash as an SUID program, even though it's running with your effective ID set to root, if you don't supply it with the -p command, it's just basically going to downgrade you back. So it's going to say, okay, well, you're running with an effective ID of root, except your real ID is OSCP. So I'm going to run as OSCP. And that's what happens. So if we run the same command with -p, you actually get your EUID set as root as well. And that's how you do that. And that was the intentional PrivEsc. So we can cd into the root, and we can grab the flag there. So I'll cut it because you don't need that. But there's the flag. So we got it. So that was the intentional way, and like I said, very easy box. You can find the SUID file extremely easily. What's better about lse over linpeas? I wouldn't say anything is better about it. I think they're both good. I would definitely use both. So there are things that linpeas does better than lse, and there are things that lse does better than linpeas in my experience. The only reason I used lse in my course is I wasn't aware of linpeas at the time. And I used WinPeas, the Windows equivalent, in my Windows PrivEsc course as well. Okay, so that was the intentional PrivEsc. The first unintentional involved the LXC and LXD stuff that we saw. So if I go into the lse.txt file and search LCD, LXC, sorry, LXC. It says, is the user a member of the LXC or LXD group? Yes. And we saw that. So our user, if I type ID, we see that our group, we are a member of the LXD group. So we're going to have to Google LXD PrivEsc, and there's a bunch of results. The best one that I found, ironically, was the one for the guy who wrote linpeas maintains this hack trick sort of site. It's a really good site, but for some reason, like, linpeas itself doesn't really highlight this as well as it should. I think, like, I feel like it should really maybe have a separate check for it, or maybe not. So there are a couple of ways of exploiting this. Exploiting without the internet, you could do this, but we have internet, so we're going to use the internet method, which is much easier as well. It's 4 lines. So you first need to initiate this. Obviously, if you copy this and run it, it's going to fail because we're not running Ubuntu 16.04, we're running 20.04, so we need to adjust this. And just to make sure everyone understands, I'm now back to my original shell, right? I'm not running as root or anything. So what we'll do is we'll change this 16 to a 20, and it says lxe command not found. So that's interesting. So we need to actually find if there even is an lxe command, and we can use find for this. I guess we'll probably use locate. Let's see if there is one. Okay, there is. So we could locate lxe. This is the binary here. So what we'll do is we will alias lxe to that, and now I can just rerun the command. And basically an alias is, is obviously what it says. So we've created a command which is lxe, which instead of running anything like that, it'll just run this binary. So effectively this command now is the same as if we just typed /snap/bin/lxe here. So if I press that, it says, as this is the first time running lxd on this machine, you should also run lxd init. Okay, so we should run this. And we'll do that. Command not found. Okay, so let's do locate lxd. And I think the binary is this snap one at the top. If I can scroll up, hang on. Let's pipe it through more. So it's snap bin lxd. And I will alias lxd to this. And then we'll do the same thing. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see if it actually did it. Permission denied. Why is this happening? I swear this is the demo bug. I'm just going to read this. This literally worked the other day for me, so I don't know why it's not working now. I wonder if I exit out of my shell and go back in. So I'm gonna not use aliases. Okay. I guess let's just try running this, I guess. So actually I need to do snap bin. Interesting. This should not be happening. Yeah, I literally did this yesterday and it did not do this, so I don't know what is going wrong with the host. But it was working. I'm guessing I could try resetting it. So bear with me. What we'll do is we'll restore. Sorry, that's going to kill my command. Okay. I'll try the offline version in a minute. I think the offline version takes a while because you have to compile it. And no, you shouldn't have to run it as root because it is a PrivEsc. So let me restore this. So I'm running it again. It shouldn't even use ZSH because we're SSH'd onto the box. So I don't know quite why it's not working. And the box doesn't run ZSH, the box runs bash. So we'll start it up and we'll just have another go. If not, I have a couple more PrivEsc that I can show you. But effectively, it should be very easy. It should literally just be once you've run the lxd init, you can then just run all these 4 commands, and at the end of them, you will have a root shell. So we're still 136. That's great. So let's try SSH-I key OSCP at 192.168.1.136. We get this again. Okay, so it was snap bin lxd init. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's not doing this now. It's the demo gods have said no, as Plavity said. So this is kind of annoying because this was actually kind of fun. I'm sorry you guys don't get to see it. Yeah, because the other method I have not practiced, and it involves compiling it. So I guess we'll have to just move on. That's a bummer. Okay, well, the other thing we saw was in our home directory, we had this root-owned IP file. And if we cat it, all we can see is that it's a bash script, and it's copying whatever the issue standard is, and it's overwriting /etc/issue, and it's also running this get IP address command and redirecting it into /etc/issue. So this might not seem obvious to a few people, but effectively whenever we boot a VM like this, whatever's displayed here, like before the login, is the /etc/issue. So if we cat that, you can see, right, it's exactly the same. So we have Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, and then /n for the name of the user, and /l I believe is the TTY value, and then we have the IP address here. So this is actually unintentional, because this is how Falcon Spy designed the box to print the IP address of the box for people when they initially boot it. So this is a script that's actually running every time you boot the box. The problem is it's owned by root, and only the root user can write to it. Okay, so if we tried to edit this file, it would say read only down here, and just to prove it, we can I can change into insert mode, and it'll say changing a read only file, and if we try and save it, it's going to say read only overwrite. And did that actually write to it? It did. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. I think the only reason you can actually write to this file, and I didn't realize you could do it like that, is because you technically own the folder that it's in. So you own your home directory, right? So if I do ls-ld home OSCP, you own your home directory, which is the file. And if you own your home directory, technically you can write to files within it. The reason, I think Vim may have done it the way I, instead of actually writing to it, it writes to a copy and then moves the copy, which is what you're supposed to do. So it might just be that's how Vim works. Vim tends to save to a temporary file and then copy the file over and overwrite it. So I think that's what happened there. But generally speaking, even if this was root owned, if you wrote a file called like new IP and saved it, and then you did something like copy new IP over IP, even though it's a root owned file, you can technically overwrite it because you own the folder. And if you have write permissions to the folder that you own, or you can give yourself write permissions to the folder, then you can write over files within the folder. So that's why you can do that. So if we know that this is running every time we reboot the host, we can just search reverse shell bash, and we can get one from Pentest Monkey. I tend to like this one here. Let me zoom in. So I tend to like this one. So what I'll do is we'll edit the IP file. We'll keep the content but we will basically paste after. And I'm gonna check my IP address. So we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna overwrite this. So to connect back to my IP 53. So let me just make sure that worked. If I cat the IP, yep, okay, we have this. So the next thing I need to do is just set up a listener on port 53. Okay. And then you need to restart the box. And this is why this is kind of... This one is kind of a cheat. The one I'm going to show you last is definitely a cheat. This is kind of a cheat because our low privileged user cannot shut down the box or restart the box. Right? It gets like permission denied errors. So while this is a viable PrivEsc, you have to technically wait until an admin shuts down the box and restarts it. Why 53? I have a tweet about why, but effectively I found throughout my career that hardly anyone blocks 53 in a network. I've seen networks where port 80 and port 443 and 4444 are blocked, but I was able to get out on 53. And the reason why 53 specifically is because 53 is DNS. And regardless of the service you're using, almost everything uses DNS. So that's why I chose port 53. So really the only way you can actually restart this box is manually like this. So if I do, I think if I just do reset, it should be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'll reset the box, and I will zoom in on the listener, and then we should see, if the demo gods are kind, it'll go through its networking thing, and then it will get a shell back. So it is slowly working. There we go. Okay. So at some point during that, it ran the IP script, and we are now root. Okay. So that was kind of cheating, because obviously you have to, restart the box. This next one is definitely cheating, and it's. I mean, you'll see it in a minute. So I'm gonna reset the box again, but I'm gonna stay in this window. And I apologize if it's small. I could not find a way to increase this size, but I need to be in this window. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically just press the up or the down arrow as this box boots. Okay, and we get to this grub menu. Right now, usually this grub menu sometimes be around for like a second or two, but it's the bootloader for the system. And luckily for us, it is not protected by a password, which means we can edit it by pressing E. And effectively, we have all these menu entries. So this is the menu entry for the first items. This is the one we generally press enter on, or it auto boots. And if I scroll down to here, and we go to this... if we go to this echo line and then go backwards, we should get to this line here, which says, it's basically Linux, and then it says /boot VM Linux, blah, blah, blah. This is the actual boot command. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a space, and I'm going to type init equals /bin/bash. And then I'm going to press Control X, and this is the one I edited, so I'm going to press enter. And then what should happen is it will boot, and once it has finished booting, we should get a bash shell running as root. And there we go. And I'm running as root, and I can cd into root, and cat the flag. So without even actually actually getting anything on the box, we can do this pre-boot, and effectively tell it to boot into a shell. And the reason this works, for one, is because the bootloader isn't password protected. But also, I think if you had an encrypted file system, this would not work either. So the file system I don't think is encrypted. And effectively, we're just telling the kernel to instantly boot into a bash shell. So this is... it's kind of common, but obviously you need physical access really to the machine, because you need to be able to boot the machine and do inputs before the machine actually boots properly into the OS. But you can do this on any Linux really, as long as there's no password protection on the bootloader, or no disk encryption. You should be able to do this. So that was that. The other way of getting the flag itself, and this was revealed by Falcon Spy after the fact. So the flag, you can see, starts D73B. If you echo hello world, so all lowercase, no space, into MD5 sum, you get the flag, D73B, right? So the flag was literally just the words hello world with a new line, which is why echo works, right? Because echo by default prints a new line. So it was hello world with a new line redirected into MD5 sum, and you'll get the flag. But nobody figured that out, so that was just a cheesy way of getting the flag. But that's all I had. I'm kind of annoyed that the LXD method didn't work. I'll have to look into it. Maybe I can show it another day. But yeah. So can I zoom? Yeah. All right, and Falcon Spice turned up. So hi Falcon. I hacked your box in so many different ways. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I guess if you have any questions, I can answer them. I can scroll back up the chat and see if there's anything interesting. I don't think I saw any questions that I didn't answer. But yeah, this is going to get recorded. I tend to always record them. I say I record them. I technically just let Twitch record them, and then I've linked my YouTube to Twitch, so Twitch can basically push it off to YouTube, and then I can edit. Difference between lse and linpeas. There's no real difference. They both do the same things. I kind of prefer LSE's output in terms of the way it lists everything nicely and sort of has like specific columns of data, so you'll see, a yes or no or an NA next to a check. But linpeas does have some cool features as well. There's really no disadvantage to running both, so I tend to run both. Just redirect them out to a file. They both have colors though, so LSE has colors. I know linpeas has like the proper highlighting for it has like the red yellow if it's 99% likely to be a PrivEsc, so that's nice. Yeah, but definitely run both. There's no reason not to. They run very quick as well, so. Any other questions? Loud noises. That's my fan. Like, it's not my laptop fan, it's my AC. How do you hack Facebook? Well, it's made from PHP, so probably very easily. Guarantee if you did a code review of Facebook, you'd probably find loads of stuff. And, you know, they award $10,000 bounties for XSS on the login page, so, you know, there's that. Alright, guys. I'm going to look into the LXD stuff and why it didn't work, but it should have. I mean, I did this the other day because I was like, I just don't want to. I don't want to get into the stream and have it not work. So I practiced the LXC stuff, and it worked fine, and then it doesn't. Yeah, so Falcon's got a link to it. Let's let me copy this. So okay, so you actually did build it. Was it difficult to build? Because we could try and do it now, I guess. We've got some time. Okay. I guess let's try it. Oh, you didn't do it? Alright. We're going to try it, and then at least it's the end of the video, so I can edit it out if it doesn't work. Alright. So CD and build Alpine. CD into LXD. Build it. Must be run as a root. Okay. Then we connect it to okay, so we copy the tar file across. Okay. Let's even see if this does it. I have no idea how long this will take. Oh, meanwhile, I should probably reset the actual box. I'm not sure if it's going to boot straight into Bash again. Looks good. So I have no idea how long this takes to download. Doesn't even look like this is loading. Oh, no, there we go. Failed to install. Okay. Operation timed out. Okay. Alright, I think that's the demo god saying, yeah, maybe not today. So, thank you for watching. I'll definitely try and figure out why the the internet version didn't work, because this one clearly doesn't for some reason. But yeah, appreciate everyone watching. Let me change to my stream ending. Please, if you want to, follow me on Twitter. I have a Discord. The links are on the screen. I have a YouTube. This will be uploaded to YouTube at some point. And obviously, if you can follow me on Twitch, you'll get notifications whenever I start streaming. But I generally post on Twitter. So thank you very much. AL89X. How much time does it take to prepare for OSCP? That's a difficult question to answer. It's like, it really depends on how much experience you already have and how much you're willing to put into OSCP. So, you know, it's, I hate to say it, but there's really no good answer to it. I would say the best approximation I can give is if you find yourself, you know, waltzing through Hack the Box, easy and mediums without relying too much on walkthroughs, then you'll probably be fine to start OSCP. So, but honestly, I've known people who are great at Hack the Box and, you know, struggle with OSCP stuff. Alrighty. Well, everyone have a great weekend, and thank you very much for watching.